Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're digging into something quite intense, a really personal story from someone who was wrongfully arrested and had to spend a night in jail.
Yeah, we're working from their own written reflection on it.
Hmm.
And our aim here isn't just to retell the story, but to sort of explore the ripple effects. What does an experience like this do to a person? And maybe what does it tell us about the justice system when things go wrong?
Okay, so let's set the scene. This person's just walking home after work, pretty normal stuff, headphones on, wearing a gray hoodie.
Totally mundane.
Right. And then just totally out of the blue, police stop them.
Mhm.
And the reason, they kind of matched the description of a purse snatcher from a couple blocks away.
And the description was basically a gray hoodie.
Just the hoodie. Wow.
It really shows how quickly your normal reality can just shift, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the person, they tried to explain. They had their work schedule, even offered to show emails on their phone proving they were at work.
Solid proof, you'd think.
You would. But apparently it was just sort of brushed aside. It makes you wonder, how much weight does an actual explanation carry versus just a vague description in those first moments?
Yeah, I can't imagine how frustrating that must be, knowing you're innocent, having proof, and just not being heard. And then it gets worse, the arrest itself, handcuffs.
Hmm.
They describe being taken down to the station, going through booking, and ending up in a holding cell. And the details they mention, that smell of cold metal, the buzz of the fluorescent lights, it really puts you there.
Those sensory details, they really drive home how impersonal and stark those environments can be. And
Yes.
beyond just being scared, the big feeling they highlighted was helplessness.
Right.
Complete helplessness. Like their truth, the fact they were innocent,
Yeah.
it just didn't count for anything in that situation.
Yeah.
It points to a real gap, sometimes, between what's actually happening to a person and how the system initially processes it.
And then, flip side, the next morning rolls around and it's suddenly over.
Yeah.
Just like that. The police caught the actual person they were looking for,
And this individual is let go.
but the way it happened, they said there was no apology. Just a simple, you're free to go, feels incredibly abrupt after everything they just went through.
Yeah, very abrupt. It lacks that sense of um, procedural fairness, that acknowledgement of the mistake, which researchers talk about. That lack of acknowledgement can really sour someone's view of the system, even if they are eventually released.
Makes sense.
And the person reflects on how this changed them. It wasn't temporary. It was this realization, this hard lesson that, well, just telling the truth doesn't automatically protect you.
And that your whole identity can be boiled down to something as simple as what you're wearing.
Exactly. Reduced to a superficial detail. From that really awful experience, though, they sort of pulled out some key observations.
Like what?
Like the feeling the system doesn't always listen properly,
Hmm.
that sometimes justice feels more like a reaction than a careful process. And also this unsettling idea that maybe these kinds of mix-ups aren't isolated incidents, especially for certain people.
That's a heavy thought.
It is. But interestingly, the account wasn't all negative in terms of human interaction. They mentioned small things, unexpected kindnesses.
Oh.
Yeah, like another person detained there shared their sandwich. A lawyer was patient. Little moments of grace. And this actually fostered a sense of empathy in them.
Empathy for others caught in similar situations.
Exactly. Especially for those who might not be lucky enough to have it resolved. So
Well, cleanly in the end.
it's something positive coming out of something so negative then. That drive to share the story.
Mm-hmm. It motivated them to speak out, to highlight where things might be unfair.
So wrapping up, this story really brings home how vulnerable anyone can be, right? How easily things can go wrong within the system.
Absolutely. A simple case of mistaken identity, but with really deep, lasting effects on someone's life and their trust.
So listening to this, it kind of makes you pause and think, what assumptions do we maybe carry around about the justice system being foolproof? And how can hearing these individual, very human experiences challenge those assumptions in a useful way? Something to chew on, definitely.